Go ahead and mute. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. We're really excited to have everyone come join us. This is obviously targeted towards all of you who are currently looking for an internship. We obviously know that recruiting has been quite hard, just given the current circumstances. So we're very, very excited today to have three fabulous speakers with us. We have Sho, Garland, and Austin. Unfortunately, our last speaker could not be here with us today. He had a stomach flu this morning, so I had to call out right before, but he will be probably joining us sometime in the future. So yeah, feel free to turn on your camera so our speakers can engage you guys visually, but mics will still have to stay off for the remainder of the event. So we're going to go ahead and just kick it off, and why don't each of you kind of go down, kind of just share your background, how you got to the company that you're at now, what you do, a little bit about background on you, and we'll kick it off with Sho.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me, guys. This is it's great. It's always great to be back. I'm actually a UC Irvine alumni. So I graduated in 2014 and I am in Hong Kong right now. So that's why you get a little bit of sunlight onto my right. So it's Friday morning for me. I know it's Thursday night, so I appreciate all of you guys dialing in late. It's great to see everybody. In terms of volume, guys, can you guys hear me okay? Maybe a thumbs up. Thumbs up? Okay, cool. I just got a new mic, so I'm testing it out right now. So a little bit about me, guys, before we begin. So I started WorkCap, which is a career coaching company, back in 2019. But before that, I actually started my career doing strategy consulting. So I was working at Ernst & Young in New York City for a couple of years. And then I moved to Hong Kong, and then I positioned myself into HR and talent development roles. I think always in the back of my head, I knew I wanted to be more focused on people development and career coaching. So then in 2019, I actually went to a Tony Robbins conference. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's like a very big, rah personal development guy. And after the seminar, it was like a 4-day thing. I was like, okay, screw everything. I'm going to start my company. So it's been about a little over 6 months now. And yeah, it's been great. It's been great. I love what I do. I love interacting with my clients and students like yourself. So yeah, I'm excited for today.
Garland, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name's Garland Fuller. Gosh, I feel like I've always known I wanted to do HR. I think I took an HR management class my senior year and was like, this feels like home. I don't have to think too hard about anything. I kind of feel like I got this intuitively and know this is like my strength. I had an internship my junior year, and it kind of made it real for me. I got out of school in a recession, so I can tell you about what it's like to do that. You will be fine. I'm still here. It's okay. And then in terms of my career path, it's primarily been in talent acquisition. I love recruiting. I call it the happy side of HR. When you compare it to some of the other employee relations and benefits and compensation, which they're necessary too, but in my opinion, aren't as fun. And in terms of, I'd say, the organizations I've worked for, I started out in law firms and kind of just learned the 101s of talent acquisition, HR in the law firm environment. And then moved into a real estate technology company, which is more of a startup environment, launched a market in South Florida. Then I decided to go back and get my master's degree in human resource development. And then from there, I headed back to Southern California. This is where I grew up, and jumped into real estate, not really knowing anything about it. And kind of realized, wow, this is a really dynamic industry. There's an opportunity for me to make impact from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. And here I am.
Perfect. And then lastly, Austin.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me as well. So I am currently, I just finished my junior year at Brigham Young University. So I'll be starting my senior year this upcoming fall. And a little bit about me. So like many of you guys, about 2 years ago, I was new to LinkedIn, had no idea what it was. I thought, it was like a Facebook for parents, something like that. And I downloaded it and never touched it again. Because I was like, well, first of all, our professors, professors always teach like, oh, you need to have a LinkedIn account, but the professors themselves have no idea how to use LinkedIn like effectively. And so many of them they say to do it, but they don't teach us how to do it effectively. And so I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted, so I kind of just stopped doing it. A year later, I applied to a bunch of companies, got rejected by all of them because all of them asked for my LinkedIn profile. It was really bad. And so I was like, man, maybe there's something to it. And so I started to research a lot. I just put in a lot of hours of research. I did a free internship for a LinkedIn consulting company, data analytics, did about 6-7 hours of free, work each week for several months, learned a lot about LinkedIn, did a few other internships, and then I decided that I wanted to work at LinkedIn. So I used what I'd learned to, leverage the platform, and I'll be starting my internship in 2 weeks at LinkedIn. In the meantime, so I've been doing recruiting for a little while. I'm a medical device recruiter. And yeah, I just love LinkedIn so much. I've seen it go from, 100% rejection rate to hundreds of opportunities coming all the time. I delivered a TEDx talk on how to use LinkedIn, as a student and how to leverage that. And it's just so cool to see how what I once saw as like a roadblock become a stepping stone to so many new things. And that's one reason why I wanted to join you guys tonight, to share a little bit more about LinkedIn, how as a student, was able to leverage that for good.
All right, thank you. That was great. Got to know you guys a little bit. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. So we're gonna attack the question that I think most students are thinking about right now for Garland and Austin. And if Sho, you have any input, feel free to jump in at any time. But how has this pandemic influenced how you look at students on the recruiting side, and what are things that you're thinking about as you're browsing their resume?
You want to go first, or I can go first? For me, I really feel like it's resilience. Like, this is when resilience kicks in. It's not giving up. It's not backing down. It's not, don't get me wrong, it's tragic. I'm not saying don't feel it, and give yourself permission to have that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm so bummed. But don't stay there. Like, you need to figure out what that next step is for yourself. And this is usually when opportunities are born. Usually when you figure out, well, you know what, I really like to do this, so I'm gonna put all my eggs in this basket and go for it. That's what I see when I'm looking for talent. It's, someone who's taken some extra steps to, participate in a student organization, start their own club, maybe decided, I like social media marketing. I'm gonna, help this food bank do some social media marketing. I mean, who knows what it is? It's somebody who just decides, you know what, I can look at this situation and figure out what I can do based on what I have. It's what I call turning lemons into lemonade. You gotta just figure out what you can do with what you have. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to, it's just working with what you have.
I love that. I think that's so important what you mentioned, Garland. And I think this time is something that we've never faced before, so many of us. And it's a time that really, from a recruiter standpoint, you get to see a lot of the people who will become top performers by how they respond to this type of crisis, because so many people right now are losing their jobs, and it's crazy to see the different ways that people respond. If it's playing the victim card of, why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? And kind of just being complacent with it, doing a few applications here and there, but expecting opportunities to come back to you from those who see it, the problem, it is really hard and sad, but also taking this time to really do things that you've never done before. Honestly, right now is the time to try that little side gig, side hustle that you've always had in the back of your mind but never had time to do. Right now is the time to do those projects that really take time but can set you apart, because honestly, be applying to a lot of jobs, but also take this time to grow and learn. Because in all honesty, everyone's going to remember what happened in 2020. If they see an experience gap, they won't be like, "Oh, why didn't you have an internship 2020? I'm not going to hire you." All the recruiters, everyone from now on, are going to remember this gap, this time, and they're going to, rather than be like, "Oh, you didn't have an internship, I'm not going to hire you." It's like, okay, how did you respond? What is it that you're going to do? And what did you do with all that free time that you had? And so I think this is a really good time for people to kind of set themselves above the rest by the way that they respond.
Yeah, I'll just follow up a little bit with what Austin is saying. It'd be what he's saying is in terms of getting new skills and doing these activities. I think that's awesome, fantastic. What the next challenge I would say for you students is how can you
requirements. Everyone's going to, school, taking classes, making good grades in those classes. I mean, that's kind of for our the over and beyond is stuff that I look at that I'm like, oh, so they were a part of this group, but they were the president or they were the co-chair or they, also played sports or they started an investment club with their friends or like they did some out of their schedule to do. And they got a license. They took a boot camp. They did a study abroad. I mean, something that lets me see that they didn't just go to school and take the classes, do well. But when you ask them about, what was, because we ask a lot of behavioral based questions about, tell me about a time when you had to, deal with a difficult personality, or tell me about a time when, things didn't work out and you had to figure out how to, either get it back on track or tell me about a failure. And if you don't have some really great examples to be able to show that you've done some stuff outside of, school, it just makes it very tough to kind of see you in a setting where you're going to be in a lot of new situations. So I like when I see people who are, trying things, doing things. I always say, you learn a lot about yourself in college because mom and dad aren't there to force you to get up and do anything. They literally drop you off and are like, going to see you next break. And so what are you doing with your time that you're there? And what are you learning about yourself? And what are you learning in terms of, trying new things? Because go over and beyond in the work world, when I look at, student life and work life, if you're just doing your day-to-day job and you're just coming in to do that thing, but you're not like looking at, okay, how can we analyze this differently? Or, I'm really curious about this. And so I want to like take on this side project for my manager in order to, make something else go differently. It's that same quality in your school is same quality.
What is it that you do outside of school as well? Competitions, clubs, internships, free stuff. Also, from a LinkedIn perspective, um, one thing that most students don't have, that if you really want to set yourself above and beyond many other of your competition, is already having a robust profile and also recommendations. Even a lot of people that are already in their careers, a lot of them don't have that recommendations part. So if you're, as a student, already have past coworkers, past employers for a a small internship that you did for professors, other people. If you're in college and you already are having recommendations from people who were over you that worked with you, that shows a lot, because even people who have been in their job for 10, 15 years, some of them don't even have one or two. And so that's a great way as well, on top of what Garland mentioned, to be setting yourself apart, and then also showing like, look, not only am I saying it, but other people are saying that I can do the job and do it well.
I'll add up there, guys. I think there's two things. There's two things that I would say that would set you apart. I think when we're talking about the minimum requirements, though, I think everyone will already pass that, like Garland said. So the two things that, as a recruiter, when I was a recruiter and when I work with recruiters that they're looking for, the number one thing is, can you actually do the job? So if you're going for a social media marketing internship, or you're going for an operations internship, or a strategy consulting internship, you have to actually prove that you can do the job. So like either in your behavioral stories, but one thing that I like to tell my clients is show proof that you can do the job. Maybe bring in some past experience, and then bring a little portfolio with you in your interviews. So that's number one. And number two, what Garland was saying about LinkedIn, yeah, there's not enough students posting on LinkedIn too. So Austin is one of the very few ones who posts consistently great content, right? So I would encourage everyone to just kind of step out of your comfort zone a little bit and post an opinion, post some takeaways from an event that you went to, post maybe even this, what you've learned from this event, and just get your content started, and recruiters will notice that.
A book that you read that you like.
Yeah, definitely.
And the way I started is just asking questions. I was like, I'm not an expert in anything, so I just ask questions, and it's crazy the amount of people who are willing to pay it forward and like, oh, I'd love to give advice, to a college student.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Touching upon LinkedIn content a little bit. Sorry, my internet cut out. Also, before I ask the next question, actually, I want to encourage our participants once again. You guys are free to turn on your cameras. Our panelists want to see your beautiful faces. Just like your mic will be muted. But yeah, feel free to turn on your camera. But yeah, talking about LinkedIn content, something that's been really popular lately is a lot of students have been posting about, I recently lost my summer 2020 internship. I'm recruiting at the moment. A large population of students that are here right now are those who have lost their internships for the summer. So from you guys' perspective, how would you go about that? Do you include that on your resume and write like rescinded? Do you include that on your cover letter? How do you take that and put it into right now as you're recruiting?
So I would more so work it into a conversation. I don't think you have to put it on your resume or put it on your LinkedIn profile, because it almost looks like you're bitter about it or something.
Yeah.
And honestly, nobody anticipated this. Nobody predicted that they'd be taking back their internship. Trust me, as an employer and as a company that we had to cancel our internship, we thought about it long and hard. We went over it for weeks. We looked at what we could do if it weren't online. What was the quality of that online content? And for us, internships it's really what we call a free look for both parties. You to look at us to discern if this is, the kind of environment you want to work in, the kind of company you want to work for. These are the kind of people you want to work with. And it's a free look at you. Is this someone who we can see in our work environment, who's putting out good work, who, gets CBRE? And so that whole thing is really, just our extensive process of working through getting down to the finalists to get the internship. And we've got like 40 spots here in Southern California. So it's highly competitive. I think we got 500 applications. It's not, us canceling the internship program was not easily, that decision was not easily made. Like, it went up the chain and then came back down. So I think if you want to mention in your storytelling of what happened in 2020, it's definitely something to mention, but I wouldn't go put it in a cover letter. I wouldn't go put it on a resume, because as Austin said, everyone knows what this year's looking like. And so no one's going to hold it to you that you didn't get an internship. I would just, it's a conversation starter or a conversation piece, but I wouldn't turn it into a, I didn't get the internship, because we don't want to focus on what we don't have. We want to focus on what we do have. And we have a lot.
Nicely put.
Yes.
Nicely put.
Awesome. And yeah, I think that was perfect. The only thing that I would add is, yeah, so with the resume, with the LinkedIn kind of like job experience, if it didn't happen, you can leave it out. And the one way that I think that would be acceptable if you felt like I have to do it, is if it had an impact on you personally, like a life-changing moment. People in their bios love to hear about something that inspired you, your story, what got you started. If you never used LinkedIn before, but because of this setback inspired you to become something better, bigger, do something else, I think that's a great thing to include in your bio of like, for the longest time, I stayed away from LinkedIn. I didn't really do much. I had my dream internship and it got canceled, back to ground zero. So what did I do? And then just share about how that experience led you to do so many different things and made you step out of your comfort zone. But from a perspective like, oh, I'm going to list it that I did have it, but I'm not. Like Garland said, I think if you are going to do it, list it like in a bio of how this made you become better type thing.
I hope you guys are taking some notes, guys, because these are some fire vibes. This is they're spitting the truth. So it's like what Austin was saying about the bio thing. That's some great advice, man. I'm now thinking for myself, like I should tell the Tony Robbins story. Engage the room. Okay.
Oh, sorry. My internet, I think, is okay.
Okay. Just taking a look around. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that, guys, but yeah, I think both of these guys got it spot on. You still have enough time, right? So it's not the summer yet. So try to do things different to try to get another internship. That doesn't mean apply to everything that you see, but try to be a little strategic and try to get another internship. But let's say all else fails. If I were in your shoes and let's say I'm a junior, I really wanted an internship and I couldn't get one before my senior year, I would create my own internship. So I would work on a project or a side hustle that Austin was talking about and like actually dedicate maybe full-time hours to it for like 8 weeks and track your progress. Okay, I started July 1st and the end of it was end of August. Let's see how many IG followers I picked up. Let's see how many customers I got. Let's see how much revenue I built over the last 2 months. So you can also do your own thing. And again, you could put that into your CV as well. So when you have their interview with Garland, you could tell her what you did over the summer.
That's right. He's exactly right. I mean, I have a story. Didn't happen to me, but happened to someone close to me because of the advice that I'm giving you, which is he's giving you as well. So I have a stepdaughter. She's 24 years old. Let's not talk about how old I am, though. And she liked doing social media. And I told her, well, talk to the people in your local area and see who wants some help. You don't have to charge them anything because you're figuring it out. So just go. So she picked up 4 companies and then called somebody and was like, I'll work for free. I just need to learn how to use, some Adobe Creative Suite products that I don't know how to use. And I'd like you to coach me. So worked with this gentleman for 3 months. He coached her, told her, whenever you're ready to move to Montreal, Canada, you have a job with me and I will be happy to write you a recommendation. And she got her next opportunity because of that social media work that she did. And when she called me to tell me this, she's so funny. She's all, I can't believe this worked. I thought this was going to be harder. I can't believe this worked. It's not that hard.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that was
exactly
great.
what the school should do.
No, yeah, for sure. That was actually really good advice. I actually might take some of that for myself actually, because I'm still recruiting for 2020. But I'm actually gonna bring it back to the LinkedIn point that you guys touched upon. Making sure that you can optimize your LinkedIn. For a lot of students here, this is kind of their outlet for looking for jobs right now. So we'll get it started with Austin. What can students be doing to make sure that their content is kind of differentiated from everyone else? Because it seems like at the moment when you scroll through LinkedIn, everyone seems to be posting like very, very similar things. So kind of tips and tricks for them to stand out on their feed as well. And the other two can jump in as well.
Yeah, I think, that is a great question. And sometimes it is tough to differentiate yourself from or create unique content. But honestly, anything from your life, anything from you personally is differentiated. No one else lives your life. So hearing about your perspectives in a problem that people are facing or just something that happens throughout the day, if it's a unique story or something that you lived that no one else did, that is wonderful content. That is something that no one else can write because you're the only one that lived it. And with that being said, at first it's tough to come up with content ideas, and it's you think like, oh, don't you run out so quickly? And so I think for those who are thinking about creating content, a big important thing that you should do is write thoughts down throughout the day. Have either on your phone like a notes app that's ready, or a little notebook or something like that, because throughout the day you have a thought come to your mind, or like a memory of something that happened one time, or like, oh wow, that just happened, that could be tied to a business lesson or something like that. But if you let that pass 10-15 minutes later, life's so busy you'll forget about it. And one way that I like to think about it is like, all right, imagine we're not in quarantine, you drove to work, and I asked you when you got to work, like, how many red cars did you see on your way to work? You're like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. But if I told you before work, like, all right, I want you to count all the red cars on your way to work. And if you got there and after I asked you, like, all right, I saw 68 red cars. And likewise, that's with content creation ideas. If you're going throughout the day, you're not looking for them. It's as if they never happened. You never saw them and they don't exist at all. But they're all there. But if you're looking for it and you write it down, at the end of the day, it's like, holy cow, do I always have that many like thoughts or opportunities come by? And so I think it's just getting used to writing things down as they come to your mind. And then you can create a vault. And on a day when you're like, I want to create content, you can look at 100+ ideas that you already wrote down. It's like, how can I tie that to a business lesson? Or, oh, how can I create content with that? And so as you get practice with that, next thing you know, after you woke up, you already have like so many ideas, because you get used to learning and noticing opportunities for content, and unique content at that as well.
I'm making note of the red car story, because that's awesome, man. I love that.
Another way of thinking for sure. Anything to add from you two, Sho or Garland?
So I'm going to go another perspective with LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn to keep up with what's going on in my industry. I follow everybody, not just CBRE. I follow everybody because we're all connected and related, and we're doing work in the same space. And so for me, it's a news feed that I've curated that I want to know more about. So if there are employers or organizations, or there are, experts, thought leaders in an area that's of interest to you, you should be following them, because that's what's going to appear on your feed. And when that appears on your feed, you're going to know what's going on. And chances are, if they're really good at what they're doing, they curate the content for you. So sometimes you can just take what someone else has already found, or something that you find interesting, write up something about it, or ask a question, or, I just listened to this podcast, it was awesome. These were the takeaways for me. What were the takeaways for you? As a way to kind of engage. There's if you see LinkedIn as a community, and I'll say this, and not a networking tool, it changes the game. When you're seeing it as a transactional networking tool, it may feel very forced or kind of like, you know, I have to go do this thing. When you curate it for the community that works for you, it feels like a place you want to go.
No, for sure, for sure. And then, Sho, if anything to add, or
Maybe just one little thing, guys. I had a call with a student from UCI actually. I think he was in the process of looking for an internship, and I looked at his CV, I looked at his LinkedIn, and in his headline he actually put in UCI business student looking for a marketing internship. So I know that's been kind of like a trend for a lot of students, is like you put your major and you put what the career interest you have. But what I advised him, and I'll advise all of you too, is make your headline and your profile a little bit more of, I guess, proactive of what you've actually done. So like maybe you could put in marketing major at UC Irvine, put the vertical space, grew IG account 3x last summer. Right. So again, shows more of like the credentials and the value you're bringing, as opposed to just saying that you're interested in something. So that's what, just a small tip for some of the students here.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And then also, if I may, I loved how Garland talked about looking into your respective industries and like news on LinkedIn. Because I know for me, recruiting for finance specifically, if you can speak about what's going on in like the overall market and not just be like, oh, Goldman Sachs has been doing this and this and this, I feel like that just goes so much further to show your passion for it and kind of shows the company that you're in it for you, something that you want to do, rather than like, oh, I want to get recruited by this specific company. Like, it's like, no, I love finance as an industry. So I just wanted to say, like, I love that you touched upon that, Garland. And actually the next question is going to go right back to you. So something else that kids are probably really thinking right now is, what are companies thinking right now? And I know you recruited during 2008, during the last crisis, but kind of what conversations are going on like the company's end right now in regards to like recruiting efforts?
Yeah, so recruiting, I feel like is in our commercial real estate space, because we are so market driven, it really is about what is the market doing. So a lot of the roles that we typically have open, we just put them on hold or inactive because we don't know what's happening with the market. And so it's hard for us because we are so data driven. You know, we look at data a lot, just to be able to not only just see trends, but also to project. And this is like the anomaly of anomalies. A pandemic is like the ultimate anomaly. This is not anything you can predict how things are going to go next. You can speculate, you can hypothesize, you can look at what's happening in APAC because they're X months out from us. You can, do that, but I mean, nobody really knows. So I'd say in terms of like recruiting, what I've been focusing on is how can we add value with students, with professionals in this space in order for us to continue to be a resource so that when the lights go back on and things get back to normal, we weren't radio silent. We weren't tone deaf. We weren't checked out. Like, we were there, we did something, we provided what we were able to provide, so that it's like, you're not like, especially when you're in an advisory in a consulting capacity, like, people want to know what you think. And it's okay to say, you know what, this is what we know. This is all we know, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next whatever. Our CEO was on MSNBC, I think, today for the Power Lunch. And, we had great Q1 earnings, but in terms of providing guidance for the rest of the year, we didn't provide any because guess what? We don't know what's going to happen. But it's definitely a thing, I'd say, for students. It's staying close to the companies that you want to still be, getting information about what they're doing, still, have something. I mean, our team currently is working on something for June, for summer, for campus. So if you'd like to know what that is, follow me on LinkedIn because that's where I'm going to post it. And it's free, doesn't cost you anything. It's literally us just giving you information about CBRE, about, you know, how to manage virtual environments. We're going to have some of our, you know, leadership that really does well with talking about the economy and what's going on, you know, present. So it's going to be a lot about what can we give right now. That's recruiting. It's what can we give.
Great, great. And then since you kind of talked about, you know, connecting on LinkedIn, like following up with you afterwards, I want to touch upon the idea of networking. So obviously a lot of students have already heard that, you know, networking is how you're going to get your foot in the door for a lot of these companies. But now that, you know, recruiting is kind of like a sensitive topic and kids kind of network to try to get like a referral, or so most of them do. Kind of you guys' thoughts on how kids can go about networking during such like a sensitive time when professionals are not really as open to connecting with students. They might not be as willing to like reach out. Your thoughts on that idea?
I would disagree with that. I think professionals are quite open,
Yeah.
to connecting with students.
I
Yeah.
agree. I would say they're open. I say don't go for the CEO and the SVP. I find that students always try to go to the like top of the food chain within an organization, and chances are they don't even check their own. They may have an assistant, or they may not even use LinkedIn. Someone curates it for them. So you may want to just go back down to the manager, to the director, keep in touch with the HR people. I think there's a fine line between persistence and pestering. I think there's some students that, you know, if you're going to ping somebody, have a reason that you're pinging them. You know, if you're doing an informational interview with them, then know why you selected that person and be prepared to take 10 to 15 minutes of their time, that you have researched this person, you have researched this company, and you know what you're going to be doing with that 10 to 15 minutes. Don't reach out to people just to be reaching out to them, and then you don't have anything to say when they actually give you the 10 to 15 minutes. It's slow death, silent crickets, horrible death. And it doesn't look good. And whatever job prospect you thought you had, so please you can go out there and prospect with people, but you have to be ready too. Because I find that sometimes I've talked to a few students, it doesn't happen very often, but I'm like, if you're going to hang out and take some time, let's really get into the meat of it. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And going right along with that, I think a lot of it is the way that you craft the message, what you say. You know, all of these people are so used to sales pitches on LinkedIn. And so if you just go right out of the bat, like, oh, hey, can you give me a referral to your company? Odds are they'll probably ignore your message. They probably, you know, they're really busy and they probably won't even respond. If you craft the message, make it all about them. The first one, you know, hey, I saw that you transitioned from this company to this company. I think that's so cool. And then also this, or I saw that you went to UC Irvine, and then saying, hey, I'd love to learn about your experiences, what it is that, how you've been able to do this or this, and make it about them. Don't mention at all the referral, what it is that you want that. And also in the conversation, don't ask like, hey, can you give me a referral? Once you're on the phone, as you're talking with them, if the conversation goes good and they feel a connection with you, that will naturally come up. From experience, that I had 10 conversations with LinkedIn employees when I was in the networking phase before that. I never asked for a referral from any of them, and all 10 of them offered a referral to LinkedIn. And with that as well, I think another important thing is when you're messaging them, you are not entitled, no one is entitled to another person's time. A lot of the time it's like a demand, like, hey, I'd love to chat with you. When can you? Kind of like assuming that they will automatically say yes. I think an important thing is to give them an easy out. Like, hey, I'd love to have a chat with you, but I know you're super busy. So if not, that's not a problem. I'd love to stay connected and learn from you. So that way they feel like, oh, this person isn't demanding me to hop on a phone call with them. They recognize that I'm busy. They respect my time. And for that, I feel that they're genuine with what they want. And oftentimes, more than not, then they will be happy to help.
And then kind of going off of that topic, so Sho is actually, for many out there that don't know, he's actually a professional career coach. And just the other day, he had his own webinar on how to stand out in the job market. So Sho, if you could just share some of like the key takeaways that you got from that webinar, kind of with our students, and if any of the ideas kind of spark ideas from the other panelists, once again, just feel free to jump in.
The piece that we just did on networking with the response from Garland and Austin, that's was, I would say, was one of the top advice from our experts as well. We interviewed somebody from LinkedIn, we interviewed somebody from Facebook, and guess how they got their jobs? It wasn't through applying, but it was through somebody they knew. So I think investing in your relationships, even when you're a student, especially I guess when you're a student, is like super, super key. I think the other takeaway was kind of what I alluded to before. There's two main things that the recruiter and a hiring manager is expecting of you when you're in the interview. One is, do I like you? So if you're sitting in front of me and are we able to connect? Are you nice? Are you kind? Very basic things, right? But number two is, can you actually do the job? And if you can do both, if you're very likable and you can do the job, you're going to get the job. But what I see a lot in my clients and my students is one of them is missing. So if they can really do the job and they're super great with technical skills, but they're maybe not as passionate and they're kind of holding back a little bit, not really vibing with the interviewer, it's going to be a tough sell. Vice versa. If you're really passionate and really genuine and really kind, but you don't show that you can add value and can do the job, then that's going to be tough too. So both of those two requirements need to be checked off. And then the chances of you landing it are very, very high.
Any thoughts from other two panelists?
I mean, I agree with what he said. I mean, I always think about, would I do business with this person? Because we're very client focused. And so I'm going to put you on the phone with the client, or I'm going to put you in front of a client. And it also may be internal clients. So not just external, but like within our own organization. And if I can put you in front of an internal or external client and have you on the phone with them, I mean, this is why most of the times we start out with phone screens, because a lot of the work, and especially in a time like this, you're talking on the phone. And so when you pick up the phone and you've got a mousy voice, or you're totally like not answering the question, it's like, uh-oh, this is not going well. And at that point, you can have the best, like you said, you can have the best resume, 4.0, cum laude, all of that. But if we can't have a conversation, whew, it's not good. And so it's very important for you to have both, because if you do have the technical skills and you've done all of that, but what I tell students, so especially I work in D&I, so I'm going to get all the way real with you guys. I'm going to get into like cultural stuff, because I feel like certain cultures, like bragging is like, you don't do that. Like talking about yourself, it means you're arrogant. It means you're conceited. So there's ways to talk about yourself. You can talk about yourself in terms of, quantifying what you do, talking about, telling a story, context, action, result, like this is what I did, this is how it was, this is the result. That's not arrogant. That's not showing off. That is owning what you can do. And you should never feel like this is your time in an interview to do that. And so I mentioned with D&I students, like, practice that. If it's hard for you to talk about yourself, if it's hard for you to say, I rocked that project, and if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have gotten that A, this is your time, okay, to talk about that. Because I can tell you everyone else is doing it. And so if you're not doing it, you're also leaving yourself out of the mix. And then talk about the things that, when he says about being, Austin talks about being authentic, it's talk about the things that make you you. And they may not be what everyone else is saying, but that's why you stand out. So we do digital interviews for our internships. And I can tell you, the ones that make it through tell us a story. They tell us a story about, because we ask them, why are you interested in commercial real estate? And when I hear, my dad's a contractor, and I used to go with him every weekend to work on houses. And we would look at houses and point at things that we liked or that we learned. And that's when I became interested in real estate. That story, everybody is interested in, because they know this person. It's just different than, oh, I took a bunch of classes, finance seemed like it was fun. So yeah, I think I'm interested in commercial real estate. Like, you hear both of those on a digital interview, it's like night and day.
I couldn't have said any better than what Garland and Sho just touched on. That was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and then just for everyone that's here, before we start winding down to our last few panel questions, just want to tell all you guys that you can submit your own questions for our panelists. So if you do have any, please shoot them over to me or Kobe right now, just so we have questions for them during our Q&A session after this. So yeah, it's Kobe over there or me in the chat box. So going back to your point about like the technicals, actually, so Austin, you know that on LinkedIn, you know, certifications have become quite the rage right now. Everyone feels like they need to get like certification to make themselves stand out. Kind of your thoughts on that, and if you have any like advice on how to approach that, maybe some websites, alternative websites to get certification. Just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually had someone approach me the other day about that, asking about certifications, things like that, which like you said, that is kind of a hot topic for many people. I think if you are, especially right now with the pandemic, with a lot of extra time, I think certifications are a wonderful thing that can help you to, you know, everyone, there's so many buzzwords that people use these days. Like, no matter where you go, people are going to claim that they know Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, things like that. A certification proves that. Things that, there's a lot of certifications that people, it depends on the industry, you know, with Google AdWords, Google Analytics, Tableau, different types of things that companies are looking for. And certifications are an excellent way to, that's kind of a topic that it's hard to prove what you do, but certifications are a perfect way to show that you actually know the topic that you're talking about. And then also on LinkedIn, putting that in the certification section, giving a little context is always a wonderful way, especially as a student, to show, look, kind of what Garland talked about earlier of, I didn't just go to school during this time. I was also participating in extracurricular activities, things like that. And I also, on top of that, am certified in XXX, you know, all sorts of things. And as far as Garland Sho, as far as specific certifications, I'm not sure what are specific ones that you guys would recommend for people. And obviously, for your specific industries, there, if you Google in it, their top results often show like amazing certifications that people in your industry are looking for as well.
I can talk about commercial real estate. So what I tell people is, know what you're getting certified for and then demonstrate that you know how to use it. So an example, Argus is a software that we use within commercial real estate. It's our financial modeling. It's something that, you know, if you go to a school that offers it as a class, awesome. If you don't, they have boot camps that you can go and take online and learn how to do it. Now, of course, as you know, with boot camps, you know, they kind of pack it all in a certain amount of time. And if you feel like, okay, I just learned how to do all of that, now I need to make a financial model. Let me pick a building, maybe pick 5 buildings in my local market and try to do some models on these 5 buildings. One, you'll really know whether you know how to use Argus. You just paid for the boot camp. That's fantastic. But do you know how to use it? Because we're going to give you a live model. And if you know how to manipulate it, it means you know Argus. And it means you will walk in like miles ahead. Because now someone can hand you work and they know you know what to do. Versus not taking the boot camp, not knowing Argus. Maybe you still get the job, but now we have to train you on how to use Argus. And so the time that we are spending doing that, we could be spending giving you other things, and then you could be adding value even faster. I use that as an example, as well as getting your real estate license. You can use your real estate license in a variety of capacities, whether it's actually in a sales capacity, property management, lease administration. There's a variety of places you can real estate license. I think it takes 3 to 4 months to get your real estate license here in California. Again, online class. You get your real estate license. You could go hang it at a mom and pop while you wait. And guess what? Try to do one deal. Doesn't matter if you're selling a trailer park. We don't care. You got your license. You used it to sell something. So now when you're sitting in the interview, yeah, I got my license this summer. I worked under XYZ firm at XYZ broker. I sold a trailer park. You didn't do any of that, then guess what? You'd have no story to tell. So I'm a big fan of getting the licenses and the stuff that you need in order for you to move in an area. Now, don't get a license if you're not going to use it. Don't get a license if it's not something that you are interested in, just to say, I have this license. If you get the license or you get the certification, use it.
Yeah, sounds good. Sho, any last thoughts before we move to our Q&A session?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I would say exactly the same.
All right, perfect. So that wraps up the drafted panel section of tonight's event. So thank you very much for all your insight. We're gonna move it into the more interactive Q&A session. So we have some questions that students have sent in already. We're actually gonna let the students ask yourselves so our panelists can hear your beautiful voices. But we'll go ahead and start with one that Raymond submitted. Raymond, are you here? Let's see. Oh yeah, he is. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, oh yeah, hi, I'm Raymond, first year student at UCI. I want to ask, how do you translate the skills that you learn from your school organizations? Because as a first year, I don't have that much professional experience, but how do you translate the skills that you've learned from these organizations into the kind of skills that might be needed during a workplace or inside a workplace?
That's tough. Maybe I can just start with this, and then the others two can jump in. I found that to be tough, to be honest with you guys. When I was a student, and let's say in my internships or in my full-time jobs, it was tough to say, oh yeah, I learned this thing in my finance class and I could apply it directly to this actual real world experience. What I felt that my managers in my internships and my full-times wanted more of was just more of like the attitude behind it. It was like they wanted me to be open to learn new things. They wanted me to be open to be more proactive and like try to do things that are a little bit different. But in terms of transferable skills, like hard skills, at least for me, I didn't find that it was a necessity for me to be successful in my internships. I'd love to hear from what Austin and Garland had to say for that.
Yeah, so I would say you're building your resume. Everything is it's a stepping stone to the next thing. So I say that my freshman year, I worked at a bankruptcy law firm, not because I wanted to do law, but because that was the internship summer job that I could get. And I was like, I'm going to be the best file clerk they have ever seen because I want a recommendation from this person. And now I know I don't want to be a lawyer. So I've eliminated a potential option of career path. And I met somebody there And I think the reason she hired me is because I went to the same school she went to. So again, we're back to the connections. I didn't know her, but she saw UC Berkeley on my resume and was like, oh, I went to UC Berkeley. So here we are. And so I went through that summer. It was not the funnest job. I mean, I was literally in a file room the whole summer. But I got really good at like finding things quickly, because I was like, well, if I'm going to be here, I need to know where everything is. So I need to understand how we have this room organized and how this is working. And then they started giving me dockets to do and all kinds of other stuff, because I was really good at the file part. So everything is an opportunity for you to like grow, be better, get the next thing. Okay, so that was the first internship or summer job. I'll even call it an internship. It was literally me in a file. But then when I went back to college that next fall, I got a position at the Associate Vice Chancellor's office working as an administrative assistant. If I did not have that file clerk job on my resume, I don't know if they would have hired me. That was a great opportunity because I learned about public policy. I learned about just what was going on in the university, public education, higher education. I thought at one point, maybe I want to do public administration. Because I was a liberal arts major, guys. You're looking at liberal arts at work. And I was like, okay, well, this is great people. I worked with some great, smart people. So don't always look at it as it has to read well on my resume. It's got to be XYZ amazing company. It's got to be this fantastical job. Freshmen and sophomores, and I say this specifically to you because I think when you see your junior and senior folks getting these fantastical jobs, if you ask any of them what they did during those first summers that weren't related to a family connection, they will tell you it was some not so fantastic job, but that may have been a stepping stone for the next thing. So what I say all of this because I feel like everybody wants it now. And you're not gonna sometimes get it now. And that's all right, but you're gonna get something. You're getting something from that experience. So don't undervalue that experience because there is something there for you. And it's something you can put on your resume so that the next opportunity, they'll be like, oh, well, you worked here, tell me about it. And it's how you tell the story. You can be working the drive-thru at Starbucks. If you talk about that experience as something fantastic, it is fantastic.
That's awesome. And yeah, Raymond, just like everyone said, that's a excellent question that you asked. Kind of to echo what Sho and Garland said, as a freshman, you're not expected to have a perfect resume, perfect experience. They know that you don't have too much years experience with internships, things like that. Also, one thing that I personally, coming into my senior year, one advice that I'd give to you that I wish I had done as a freshman is don't be scared to take those higher classes or those more industry relevant classes your sophomore year or earlier on. I was pushing off a lot of the industry specific classes like finance, sales, other things for my junior, senior year because I thought magically over that 1 year I'd have a greater capacity for studying or I'd be so much smarter. But I wish I had taken this sales class I just took last semester, my sophomore, freshman year, because you're forced to learn new concepts, new skills that are applicable to jobs, more applicable than just GE courses. And like my final that we had to do, we did a sales consulting project for a local company, and we did a 30-page write-up. We shadowed so many of their sales reps. We did all sorts of stuff and created a consultation project. And if I'd done that my freshman, sophomore year, instead of now that I already have an offer for a company, I could have used that class, that project, that experience as a resume bullet, as something that, although, yeah, it was in school, since you're already taking industry relevant classes, you're going to be doing advanced stuff that you can share on your resume or that you can share to recruiters as an experience. And so for a lot of you freshmen, sophomore, people who are starting out, yeah, don't be scared to push yourselves. and take those classes. If you know what path you want to take, go ahead and take those classes, and a lot of it will be very transferable to your resume, especially early on.
Perfect. All right. I think our next one comes from my very own co-company's relations director. I think Kobe has a question for you all.
Yeah, and while I ask this question, anyone has questions, feel free to send them in to me or my co-host Valerie, and then we'll meet you and can answer. But this is for Sho. So you previously worked at EY as a senior strategy consultant. What tips and specific advice do you have for students that are looking to go into the consulting field?
For the consulting field?
Yeah, and especially specifically strategy consulting.
I hear you, man. Okay, so this is back when I was a junior, so back 2013, 2014. So I don't know if times have changed like crazy, but when I was at UCI, we weren't a target school for a lot of these consulting companies. Is that the same still today, guys?
Yes, unfortunately,
yes, okay.
It is very true.
All right. So and that's okay. And that's okay, right? So you have that goal. I want to work in consulting. I want to work at these couple of firms. It's all about finding ways to get noticed. So if you apply through the website, you're not going to get noticed. It's not going to work. What you got to do is the things that we've been referencing before. Go on LinkedIn, maybe start posting some original content, reach out to professionals and spend 10, 15 of their time, but in a very productive conversation. Don't ask for referrals, right? But if the conversation leads there, then it'll be great. But one thing that I did that was maybe a little bit different is I actually crashed other schools' career fairs. So there's UCLA, there's USC, there's Pomona right next to us. So if I saw that EY strategy consulting was going to be there, I drove out an hour and went into the career fairs and just introduced myself. Said, hey, I go to UCI, but I'd love to learn more. They're never going to reject a student who's trying. Right. So I would say for all of you guys, just try to think outside the box and just try. What's not trying is when you just go on the website and you just apply, because that takes like 30 seconds. So put in a little bit of time and effort. And I think that's essentially what I feel got me into consulting. And so I would say that's for anybody who's trying to break into an industry that's not as common at UCI. You should try to be different than everybody else.
All right, you got it. And I think our next question comes from Carmen. Carmen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Hi everyone, my name is Carmen and I'm a third-year business economics major. This isn't so much of a recruiting question, but I wanted to reach out and ask, how has remote learning been different for professionals? And what are some things that you might have found more efficient in while working? And what changes in the workplace do you foresee that might be staying after remote working is over, when we resume to normal?
So I've been working 2 to 3 days from home anyway. The difference now is my family's here.
Nice addition.
So, and that's been great. I'm not complaining. It's usually very quiet when I work from home. And so now I've got 11-year-old on a Zoom class, and she's like, friends. And I think this next generation will be so good at this because of this. If anything, again, there's always a silver lining somewhere in all of this. I think we were doing Zoom before our organization had Zoom, probably 6 to 8 months ago. We had installed Zoom cameras in all of our conference rooms because we just wanted to get better at not having to fly everyone everywhere in order for a meeting to happen. So we thought, let's just start to embrace the technology. So fortunately for us, it wasn't very hard to transition into a Zoom environment. I'd say that the thing that was more challenging was like getting used to all of your meetings being on Zoom, because we were doing them here and there, so it didn't feel like, oh, I'm on. But now every meeting is a Zoom meeting, and so if anything, it's just we're getting more proficient at using it. I think some employers, particularly the ones who've been really resistant to this, have been pleasantly surprised at how like people are still getting work done. Productivity is still happening. There's still, there's still, there's some industries that I feel like have been very resistant towards telecommuting, flex time, work from home. And they're realizing, wow, I don't know why we were so afraid, because we were forced to do it, and nothing fell apart. Um, my hope is that there's more of it. This is just my personal hope, because I always say I just need an internet connection and a phone to do what I do. I don't need, a lot of stuff. There are some people who do need to be more collaborative in their work. And in those cases, it's probably finding a new workflow and a new way to work. And those teams are probably feeling more isolated because they're not all working together every day in person. But I think, and I'm going to like talk about being a person with a family for a minute. It's been kind of nice. It's been kind of nice to not have to have a rush. Because when you have a family, you're thinking, myself, I'm thinking about the school drop off. I'm thinking about the school pickup. I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about bath time. I'm thinking about, all of these things that it probably took me about 2 weeks to just like breathe, like be like, oh wow, I don't have to be worried about getting somewhere. I don't have to be on this very rigid schedule. And so that has been just refreshing to be able to have this time, because it's not normal. Like this is not normal for families. Now, if you talk to other people who, are sheltering in place by themselves, they are maybe going crazy, feeling like the walls are coming up around them right now. And if that's you, I understand. But I feel like it really depends on what you're doing, your work. I think there are going to be more flexibility, and I'm hoping more forgiveness with what work and productivity and time and all of these things that we've been, feels like, either fighting with or trying to make fluid. Hopefully it makes it a conversation where people can really talk about what's working and what's not working and how we can do it better.
Yeah, awesome. And just to be really brief for my experience, what we've been doing differently. Now we're reporting a lot of metrics that before we never did because our boss can't see us working. And so he just wants to know, he's not demanding super high metrics. He's just like, hey, I want to see like what it is that you guys have been doing, because I don't know what you guys are doing. So a lot of the things that we had never been reporting before, now we're reporting metrics. And also I've just seen a lot of my coworkers, a lot of us are craving human interaction since, we don't have a lot of people. So actually calling and seeing how people are doing is a great way to establish even more firm relationships, because while you're getting a drink of water now, you can't chat or anything like that. But that's a few things that I've seen.
Perfect. I think our next question comes from Christina. Christina, are you here? All right, yeah, there she is.
Hello, I'm actually a sophomore at Babson College. My friend Catherine invited me to this. So basically my question is, so after having an internship but realizing it's not for you, how would you kind of like write that experience on your resume but geared towards a different industry?
That sounds like a cover letter thing. Like, and a conversation, honestly. So that's definitely in your LinkedIn summary, in the sense that you're going towards another industry maybe than the one you've been in. What I tell students is it's never too late to change your mind, like ever. Like even now, at my point, if I decide, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to do something else, like it's never too late to change your mind. The beauty, I think, at this stage is that you haven't invested enough in your career that pivoting to do something else feels like, oh my God, I'm learning way too much new stuff. So it's okay. I think it's all about how you choose to talk about that. Like, these are the things that I learned about myself in this internship. Here's what I realized I loved, and here's what I realized I didn't like. And there was a lot of things that just weren't working for me. And so it made me realize this is actually my strength, and I need to be going towards my strength. No one's going to be like, what? What do you mean you're going towards your strength? No. Okay, perfect. You know that's not working for you. This is what's working for you. Let's see if we can find you an opportunity that's going to work for you. I talk about stories a lot because that's how I see resumes. When I look at someone's resume, I'm looking for the story. And that's why when you see too much randomness, you're like, okay, well, what's happening? And then when you tell me the story as to why this happened, then I'm like, oh, okay, you're filling in the gaps for me. You're telling me your story. If I see your resume and it's all in one track, that's telling me you have made up your mind. This is what you want to do. If I'm seeing that you're in the same industry, but you're going from different sides of the industry, that's telling me you're trying to understand it to some degree from different points of view. So it's very important for you to understand this is why it's so important to pick the companies, the roles, the places you want to go, because you have to tell the story to yourself first before you tell the story to me. And the story is, why am I working here? Like, what is it that I'm hoping to get from this? What's the skill or the knowledge or the experience that I'm hoping to have from this? And that way you come out of it and you know exactly why you did it. So that's okay that you had some stuff and you're like, oh, yeah, no, this is not me. I did 2 accounting classes. I'll tell you this story. And I was like, why am I doing this? I was in an organization on campus that was accounting organization. It was one of the many business associations, but this one specifically, it had a student chapter and a professional chapter. And so everyone around me was taking accounting classes. So I was like, oh, let me just take an accounting class. And I got in there and I was like, that's a no. This is not your calling. This is not how your brain works. You need to be doing something else. But I met somebody in that association that told me, let me see if I can get you in HR because you look like somebody that's more an HR person. And I was like, okay. And then I got my internship by going through the process of the interview, but through that network. So what I'm saying is, it's never too late. It's never too late to try to turn it over.
I would give so Garland's was about the interviews and the cover letter, which I think is spot on. I think maybe in terms of CV, I would say something a little bit different. Let's say you had an internship in marketing. I can't see. Is Catherine still here?
Yeah, she's over there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so let's say you had an internship doing marketing, and now you all of a sudden want to do operations, for example. Try to write bullet points in the marketing internship that would apply to the operations one. So now, even though you have a different title, it still shows that you have experience doing the thing that you actually want to do now.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. And then I think we're going to wrap it up with one last question we have from Faith.
Hi, I'm Faith. I'm a first-year business student and one of the board members for UVA. So my question was kind of similar to Raymond's. It's more for first and second year students, but I was wondering, if you're a student that hasn't had the chance to have an internship experience or even really relevant class experience to internships, do you think club involvements, if you're involved in a club like UVA or if you're in a business fraternity or something like that, do you find that useful when recruiting? And do the skills you learn from that, let's say you did social media marketing for a club or you manage the finances, do you think that is transferable to the professional world, or is that more school specific and not as useful in the long run?
Being a student myself, my freshman and sophomore years, I didn't have an internship until my junior year. And so those were huge. That's honestly what got everything started, was involvement in clubs. And, you're always going to hear people those voices oh, yeah, don't don't apply, it doesn't really apply. But like Garland mentioned earlier, that this is a time to highlight what you have. This is the time to highlight what you're made of. And so I think club involvement, especially for freshmen and sophomores, if you're a part of a club and in the leadership so young, that is awesome. That is wonderful, relevant experience that you have. Social media marketing, whether it's in school, whether it's in club, whether it's for somewhere else, it's applicable. It's social media marketing. You know, it doesn't matter if you did it for a company, for a club, you still are applying the same skills and results. So yeah, that is huge. I would definitely leverage that experience that you have and show why it would be transferable. It's like, look, I did it for this club. We have this many people. We did these events, and I measure the find quantifiable data that you did, how you made an impact on the club. And then when you're applying for internships or when you're in an interview for a social media marketing role, you can show them the data like, look, I did this for a club, but also this is why I can do this for your company as well. And so, yeah, I think that is a great thing to be doing, especially, you know, as a freshman and sophomore. Props, that's awesome.
Yeah, perfect. Any last inputs from either two on the panel?
No, that's sound advice. I think it counts. It totally counts.
All right, for sure. Go ahead.
What Garland said before, and I love this, was like, you make the experience as big or small as you want. I forgot how, Garland, you phrased it, but I think that also goes for your class experience. Like, you can say like, yeah, I was a small little potato for this project, or you could say, yeah, it was a great experience and I did this and I did this. So like, you make it, and then the other person is going to receive whatever energy you're giving off. So I forgot how eloquently Garland said it, but I think that was some spot on advice.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's you bringing who you are to that opportunity. Like I said, you could be working, you know, social media for your club, and then you can decide, you know what, I'm going to find 4 more businesses in the area and say, hey, I let me do your social media for the summer, because you know, I want to see if I can grow your Instagram following, or I can see if I can use, I don't know, one of these delivery services to increase, you know, your visibility. Or, you know, what is it that, I mean, asking them, what is it that you want, and how can we leverage social media to get you there? And you'll learn a lot about social media. You'll learn a lot about businesses and what they want. You'll learn about how you work. I mean, and that, again, doesn't cost you a thing other than going into these businesses, throwing your hand out there, or your elbow, or whatever we're throwing I don't know what we're throwing anymore since we can't touch. You know, you're basically saying, what's up? I want to help you. And here's how I can do it. And so that's really what it is. I wish I would have known this when I was you guys. I found opportunities, fortunately, but I think at this point in my life, I would have been all over the place. They would have been like, this girl's everywhere. But yeah, totally go for it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our panel. Let's all silently give our panelists one last round of applause. Thank you, all 3 of you guys, for taking the time. Truly appreciate it. And for all of our participants, I hope you took something useful away from this. Something that they touched upon a lot was taking this time to really cultivate yourself and develop new skills. And so thankfully, UVA is actually having a follow-up event to today's event, and we're going to be helping you guys cultivate these skills. We have collaborated with the UCI Marketing Association to host a Photoshop workshop, which is going to happen on May 11th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. So this could be targeted towards anyone out there that's going into marketing. You can help to put like a tangible skill on your resume after this, or just for anyone that's looking to show, like they said, that during this time they took a lot of time to, you know, grow themselves technically, put together a little project. So please feel free to join us then. More information on that will be sent out next week, and we look forward to seeing you then. For those of you that have not, oh, sorry, it's the 18th, not the 11th. But yeah, more information will be sent out. Those of you that have not signed in to the form that Kobe linked in the chat, please do. This isn't just for us to know who came, but also we are going to be sending out follow-up packages, which is going to not only include, exclusive job listing sites that we've gathered together as a board, but as well as some materials that our speakers themselves have sent out to us, including the one that couldn't be here, some exclusive material he has there, and just contact information for our speakers as well. So if you're interested in receiving any of that, please do fill out that form. Thank you for having me, allowing me to host this panel, and we hope to see you guys at the next UBA event. So thank you, everyone.
All right,
Bye,
thank
guys.
you.
See you. Good meeting you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for coming.